Now, scrap the cap by St Patrick's Day. That's the call from Ryanair on the removal of the limit on the number of passengers allowed to travel through Dublin Airport. It comes as government says new legislation will be in place by the summer to allow this to happen. For more on this now, I'm joined on the line by Michael O'Leary, Group CEO of Ryanair. Michael, many thanks for joining us this evening.
Thanks, Katie. Pleasure to talk to you.
You're calling for this cap to be scrapped by St Patrick's Day. Now, you may have heard Jack Chambers, the Minister for Public Expenditure, on with us a short time ago. He's saying it's extremely complex legislation. It's being prioritised by them. He says it's unlikely it will be done by St Patrick's Day, but they're working really hard to fast track it and have it in by the summer. Is that not fair enough?
No, it's waffle, and more waffle. This is a government with a 20-seat majority that got elected November 2 years ago, and it published its programme for government in January 2025, 14 months ago, in which Eoghan Martin committed to scrap the Dublin Airport cap, quote, as soon as possible. And in 14 months, they have done nothing. Let me tell you what's likely to happen in the next couple of weeks. The Trump administration is likely to stop Aer Lingus flights landing in the US, and then you'll see this government scrambling around and passing this legislation within 24 hours. They can pass the scrambler legislation within a week. They pass the rent control restrictions legislation within a week. They guillotine the process in the Dáil. Scrapping a 2007 cap, which was introduced because of concerns about road traffic around Dublin Airport, is not complex legislation. It isn't difficult. It just requires Micheál Do-Nothing Martin to get up off his backside and deliver on his promises. Where is he today? He's over in Belgium at a summit of European leaders talking about boosting Europe's economy, while he sits on his hands on a cap that blocks the traffic growth of American and other airlines at Dublin Airport. If he's serious about boosting the economy, deliver on your promise. Scrap the cap.
Now, surely, Michael, you'd agree that the Taoiseach should be going abroad, promoting Ireland for trade and tourism, actually getting more traffic through the airport. You're not expecting the Taoiseach of Ireland to stay at home.
I'm not, but the problem with this Taoiseach is that all he does is go abroad. All he does is off on tours, talking about more talking and talking, which is fine as long as you delegate to your ministers here at home. I want that cap scrapped by Friday. But nothing happens here while he's wandering around the world getting his photographs taken.
Why do you believe that Trump might move on this in the coming weeks?
We underestimate how furious the American airlines are. I mean, the American Airlines, which is represented by a very active lobby organization called A4A, Airlines for America, they made a formal complaint to the US administration in November, complaining about the Irish government doing nothing about scrapping this cap. And with the Trump administration, the Irish government were obliged to reply I think it was before Christmas. And the Irish government, we're working on it, but it's very complex, and we'll do something about it. The Trump administration is not going to hang around while Micheál Martin sits on his hands doing nothing for yet another 12 months.
But they're not doing nothing, though. They're saying that they are.
They are doing
nothing.
They've had 14 months since they promised to.
We had the Transport Minister, Darragh O'Brien, on with us this week. He says that it was very complex, but they were expecting it to be brought to the Oireachtas on an expedited basis. So they are finally going ahead with it, Michael O'Leary.
No, they're not. They're just talking and making vacuous promises. They have a 20-seat majority. They can guillotine the rent restriction legislation through the Dáil in a week. Why can't you guillotine the Dublin Airport cap legislation through the Dáil in a week?
But is there any need to right now? Because there's no cap in place right now, is there? Because of the actions that yourself and other airlines took.
Thanks to the legal action, but it looks like the ECJ today, the Advocate General today, ruled bizarrely that it doesn't matter how ridiculous the cap is, that the cap may well be enforceable. So we may lose this case. And I think what you'll see is this government move very quickly, I'd say within 24 hours. If the Trump government decides they're going to block an Aer Lingus flight landing in New York, or they're going to stop Aer Lingus opening new routes to Nashville or to Minneapolis, then you'll see this government move within 24 hours. But they have to be embarrassed into actually delivering what they say they'll deliver. 14 months after they promised to scrap this cap as soon as possible, Nothing is done. Just ministers mouthing on about we'll do something about it. It's very complex. It's very difficult. You have a 20-seat majority. You can do what you want, pass the legislation and get on with it.
You mentioned, Michael, the fact that this cap was introduced back in 2007 because the infrastructure around the airport wasn't able to cope. And you're saying now,
it was about fears that the road infrastructure wouldn't cope if the traffic got to 30 million passengers. Since then, the M50, we've upgraded all the motorways. The traffic is already bust through the cap. Like we're at 30, this year we'll be at 38 million passengers at Dublin Airport. And the roads around the airport are able to cope fine.
I don't know, Michael O'Leary, would a lot of people agree with you that the roads around the airport are coping fine? I mean, I'm sure you've seen the M50 and how it turns into a car park at various times of the day.
Well, sorry, this isn't the M50. I mean, it's the roads immediately around the airport, the roundabouts, the Old Swords Road. They're all fine. Yes, traffic is growing at Dublin Airport, but is that a reason to stop growing or increasing routes and increasing visitor numbers to this country to sustain our tourism industry?
How big do you think?
That debate was passed, Katie, in the last general election when both of the main government parties campaigned on a programme that they would scrap the cap. They've already promised to scrap that cap 14 months ago and that they would do it as soon as possible. So let's not go back to discussing the 2007 nonsensical road traffic concerns. We've elected a government with a 20-seat majority. They promised to scrap the cap, and 14 months later, nothing is done because our Taoiseach is off in Brussels getting his photograph taken and emoting about how difficult it is and how Europe must be more competitive. Meanwhile, nothing happens here at home.
How big?
Nothing on housing, nothing on infrastructure, and even when it's simple, like the Dublin Airport cap, he can't get anything done.
Okay. There'll be 38 million passengers through Dublin Airport this year. How many passengers? This year, yeah. How many passengers do you think Dublin Airport can handle or should be able to handle?
Well, I mean, we've opened a second runway 2 years ago, and with the second runway, Dublin certainly has traffic capacity for about 50 million passengers. And that would add about 10% of growth to Irish tourism. It would create about another 10,000 jobs, entry-level jobs for people working in Irish tourism, in hotels, in restaurants, all across the country. And all we're waiting for is Micheál Martin to act on his promise to scrap this cap as soon as possible.
Should we not be thinking more about developing Shannon, Cork, Kerry, Knock?
We are developing Cork and Shannon. We've added a fourth-based aircraft in Shannon this year. We've developed a fourth-based aircraft in Dublin. But the vast majority of traffic wants to come to Dublin Airport. Dublin is the capital city. Many will go down the country with that. And you have where Ryanair wants to grow. We are growing in Shannon, we're growing in Cork, and we want to grow in Dublin too. But again, let's not go back and debate whether the growth should go to Dublin or to Cork, because we elected a government 15 months ago that promised to scrap the Dublin Airport cap as soon as possible. The problem is, the government is led by Micheál Martin, who is great for wandering around the world getting his photograph taken, but nothing gets done here at home while he's on his international tour.
We've also heard concerns from farmers, Michael O'Leary, saying that they look on with envy at the freedom from climate commitments that the airport is getting. Do you think you're getting a free ride here?
Well, I can speak as one of Ireland's biggest farmers. I think the Irish economy badly needs for us to push back on some of these environmental commitments. The net zero by 2050 hasn't a hope in hell of being achieved.
Well, maybe if aviation took some of the hit, farmers wouldn't have to take so much of it.
Our pastures will pay about 1.8 billion in aviation taxes. This nonsensical environmental taxes, about €8 per ticket is being paid in environmental taxes. But again, none of this undertakes away from, we elected a government 15 months ago who promised to scrap this cap as soon as possible. And 15 months later, nothing has been done. I listened to Jack Chambers an hour ago and say, it's very complex. They didn't put in their programme for government, it's very complex and we'll think about it for the next 2 years. They said they would scrap the cap as soon as possible. The electorate voted for these two parties on that basis, and all we want them is to deliver on this promise. These planes are going to fly in Europe, whether we lift the cap or not. The only choice of it, the only issue facing Ireland is, do you want this traffic and tourism growth here in Ireland? We have the benefit of the world's biggest passenger airline, the world's lowest fare airline here in Ireland. Do you want us to grow in Ireland, or do you want us to send this growth to the UK or to Germany or to Italy, where, by the way, they're abolishing environmental taxes, they're lowering airport fees because they want this growth?
Can I ask you about Elon Musk? Many
Absolutely.
of our listeners will
I'm a great fan of his.
Are you?
He generated more free publicity for Ryanair in the first 2 weeks of January than I think we've ever generated before. Long may he continue to abuse me.
Have you spoken to him directly at any stage since your spat?
No, I haven't spoken to him. He thinks I'm an idiot. I think he's an idiot. So at least we're agreed on the fact that we're all bloody idiots. But the great news is that it boosted Ryanair bookings by about 3 or 4 percentage points for 2 weeks. So long may he continue to call me an idiot.
What about the central point, though? Obviously about offering Starlink and Wi-Fi on your flight. Will we be seeing Wi-Fi on Ryanair flight anytime soon?
I think it's inevitable in the next 3 to 5 years, Katie, but not only when the technology continues to improve to a level that we don't have to bolt something to the outside or to the external outside the plane. When the aerial technology improves so we can fit aerials either inside the plane or into a baggage hold or something like that, then I think we'll see free Wi-Fi. But we certainly won't be adding something or strapping something to the outside of a plane that will cost us between 100 or 200 million in fuel consumption, because passengers won't pay for Wi-Fi on 1 hour flights. If it's free, they'll certainly use it. And we're continuing to work with Starlink and with Amazon and with Vodafone to explore technology that will enable us to offer free Wi-Fi, I think, in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, very briefly.
But in the meantime, I hope Elon Musk continues to abuse me. Because it'll drive more bookings for Ryanair, hopefully so we can grow more flights at Dublin Airport when Micheál Martin finally honours his promise to scrap the stupid cap.
Okay. Can I finally, talking about Micheál Martin, you being a man, Michael, who is known for his matter-of-fact, direct, robust approach to matters, would you have advice for the Taoiseach on how to deal with President Trump for the Shamrock ceremony?
Okay, absolutely. Go in there, tell him that you've a new initiative that Micheál Martin has personally arranged to scrap the cap at Dublin Airport in advance of St. Patrick's Day so American Airlines can grow here in Ireland, and then give him some honorarium for his golf course in Clare or whatever else needs to be done. Right, okay. Stand up to him. It's the only thing he understands. The Chinese stand up to him when he rolls over. Europe finally stood up when it came to Greenland and he rolled over. But, this idea of going over there and saying nothing and trying not to be offensive, go in there and stand up to him, for God's sake. But, that's not Micheál Martin's speciality. He's much more likely to be wringing his hands and nodding sagely while nothing gets done at home. Michael O'Leary, Group CEO of Ryanair. Continued success with the programme. Great. Thanks very much for joining us.